Hi everybody and welcome to the video and live streaming show. I'm John Lacey. Today I'm joined by a special guest co-host in the form of the facilitator himself, Saeed Sadouk. Thank you so much for being here. Saeed, how's your week been, and how are you generally, I should say?
Regarding the fact that it's 1 a.m. in Germany, I'm happy that I'm awake and I could make it today. The weather change in Germany, it's becoming kind of summer, and I cannot deal with these temperatures. It's not very hot, but 20 degrees Celsius, which is way more in Fahrenheit. I don't know how much it is, but it's just, I'm not used to it. And otherwise, it's just life. A very boring standard week. Nothing exciting, but also nothing bad happened. So. I know probably I shouldn't ask, but I still try. How was your week, John?
My week was okay. It was fairly busy as always, but again, nothing particularly bad happened to me. I did actually get an Elgato prompter, which it's been on my wish list for the longest time, and a company in Australia actually had some in stock, which it was amazing to me because they sold out really quickly the first time around. So I did grab one of those. I've got all kinds of toys to play with at the moment, and in some ways it's really fun, but in other ways I feel like I'm just making my life more complicated than it needs to be. But we'll roll with those punches. I do want to check in with the chat briefly, and by the way, if you are watching live, do that thing that I'm always trying to make happen, hashtag team live, or if you're watching later on, hashtag team replay. And I guess we have to acknowledge this, and I'm just going to go into the chat. So hi Saeed and John. Stefan from Sweden here. Hello, thank you so much for joining us. Sam is noting that he looks kind of funny, so we need to talk about Sam because Sam is in the comments, which is lovely. But he actually has had a pretty stressful week, and I'm not really sure. We've communicated a little bit in the last week, but he's literally had a house fire. He and his family are okay, but there's a lot of property damage. There's a lot of headaches associated with that. But yes, this week, we do have Saeed joining us instead, and Sam's just checking in. I do want to say too, again, if you do want to support Sam and Amanda, someone has set up a GoFundMe page, so you can check that out over there as well. And there's a QR code on the screen if you do want to scan it. So obviously, we'd love to have Sam back whenever he can get back, but take all the time you need, Sam. It's a very stressful and unfortunate situation, and I know that his laptop was one of the casualties of that incident. So, yeah, and I didn't even have a chance to tell Saeed about all of that, so he's probably just taking that news in right now.
I saw it online, so I hope everything is fine, and the most important thing, nobody hurt, which is the most important. And thanks for acknowledging this, Sam. I thought about a little joke for all the people who joined in late. No, it's not Sam-proof, it's me. Just saying. But I will talk about cats as much as possible today. So, giving my
Saeed did have to wrangle one of his cats just before we went live too. So they might even make an appearance. So stay tuned. Something else that has happened in Sam's world, which is a little bit more fun, and I don't really have a lot of details about this, but if there's a Corey Williams, who's sort of a very old school YouTuber, has, in conjunction with Sam in some capacity, and again, I'm not across the detail, but has created this sort of virtual experience where you can watch somebody climb a ladder to space and get them to do all kinds of wonderful things. So again, when Sam can come back, I'd love to hear about the mechanics of all that because it's really rather interesting. But so it's all been happening. And hello to Ender Trading, who's joining us as well. It's great to have you live. Normally you're a team replay person, but Sam is noting too that all the humans and the cats are safe, so that's something to be grateful for. Hello to CG as well. Today on the show, and I don't think I've even mentioned it at this point, but we're going to talk about OBS Studio Plugins and 4 more of our favorites. We've done a few shows on this in the past, but it's always a very popular topic. So I guess before we get started, let's talk about what OBS Studio is. And again, I know it's not for everybody, so don't feel like we're twisting your arm, but we do think it's really cool and would be happy to help you check it out. But essentially, OBS Studio is sort of open, free and open source software for video recording, live streaming, and even just showing, changing the way you show up on a webcam in any kind of software, whether that's Zoom, which I know Saeed likes using quite a lot, or Microsoft Teams, which I know he doesn't like using at all. It's really great. And the wonderful thing about it being open source is that it's because that code is available. There's a whole community of developers that are building additional functionality to add extra things in the form of plugins and scripts. So we're going to talk about some of our favorites, and we've done other shows on this. You can find them after we finish here today. But let's get started. So this first one, and I'm probably going to defer to Saeed on this one a little bit because I haven't really had a chance to use it yet. But talk to me about the Source Tree plugin.
Yeah, it's actually the Scene Tree plugin.
Okay. Sorry. Yes, my bad.
It's kind of the same, but it's one of these features where I wish, why isn't it on board, out of the box? Because it's something very, very small, something you don't need any skills for, but it can make your life easier. And what it does is install a plugin, of course. And if you like to, I can just share my screen shortly and show how it looks. I have to use my mouse like this. There we are. So I have a second OBS instance open. I hope you can kind of see it. However, when you install it, you just get a second little panel here, which has all your scenes in it. It's the same as the original one. But what you can do here is just add folders. You add a folder, you name the folder. I don't know, it's, for example, I don't know, cameras. If you have multiple ones or multiple scenes with cameras, give it a nice name. And then you can just drag and drop stuff into this folder. And the good thing is, especially if you are building like bigger scene collections, it can get overwhelming when you have like 30, 40, 50 different scenes, or you try out stuff. You can just create multiple of these folders and just allocate things to them and collapse them. So now I have like 8 scenes, and then there are like 2 scenes that are just hidden because I don't need them, especially when I go live. I have a Stream Deck, which makes life easier, but if you just the fewer you see, the better it is. I think if I only need like 5 scenes for my live setup and to stream on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, wherever, it's much easier to just have an eye on these 4 scenes and ignore all the rest. So very pretty straightforward, no rocket science here.
So it's really about sort of organizing all those different sources and scenes and just making it a little bit easier. I am curious, like, are your scenes, would you say, particularly complex, or are they pretty simple?
It depends. So I think complexity starts when you use like nested scenes. You have a scene inside of a scene, and that's where complexity can start. And also, it depends on how you name your scenes. You can get lost into them, even if it's only 20. And then when you try out things, not only if you are new to OBS, but in general, I like to try out things and see how they work. And then I have draft 1, draft 2, and this, and maybe multiple camera views or stuff like this. So it can just get overwhelming. Sometimes it's not really complexity. It's more of, okay, so many sources, so many scenes, and just having them kind of organized together totally makes sense for me. We don't have to make things more complicated than they are. If I can
and again, I'm sure I'll really annoy poor Sam in the comments, but like I know he does a lot of nested scenes and scenes within scenes, and it gets very complicated. Where I'm if I can't rebuild my scene collection, in an hour, I think it's just too complex for me most of the time. So again, and I only mention that because the great thing about OBS, and I'm forever using this mixed metaphor, that it's sort of a rocket ship in the sense that it can do just about anything, but it is also a pocket knife in the sense that it's incredibly useful. And you kind of, especially if you're a beginner, you've got to negotiate that, that learning curve a little bit and try not to do too much too quickly. So just keep that in mind. All right, so that one was the scene tree, and again, all of these plugins are the best place to go is actually obsproject.com. You can go to the forums, and they have a whole section on different plugins. There are plugins available elsewhere as well, so keep that in mind. But just check that out to start with. But, you know, in interest of meeting our cat quota, we're going to come back in a second and talk about advanced masks. But first, let's play this one.
We are constantly training our cats every interaction that we have with them. Mm-hmm. So when Johan would get on my counter before, you know, this is 10 years ago, before I was the cat expert that I am now, Johan would jump on the counter. What was the first thing I did? I'd say his name, Johan. He loves that. That's a reward for him. He said, you just said my name. I would go over to him and I talk to him, be like, you can't be on the counter. Johan loves when I talk to him. Ding, that's another reward for Johan. I'd pick him up and put him on the ground, but I didn't want him to think I was mad at him. So when I'd pick him up very nicely and kiss him on the head and say, I love you, but you can't be here. I'd put him on the ground. I had just done 3 things that rewarded him for being on the counter. So I was encouraging him to continue doing that.
And that's a segment from Sam's podcast, Just Kidding Around, which you can learn more about over at cuteavalanche.com. And I know because of the aforementioned fire that the 24/7 kitten cam I don't think is actually in operation, but there is literally thousands of hours of cute kittens, so you can certainly go and check those out in the interim. So this is the video and live streaming show. Today I'm joined by our special guest co-host, Saeed Sadouk, the facilitator, and we're talking all about OBS Studio plugins and some of our favorites, and I kind of want to talk about this one here called Advanced Masks. And again, this is also something that you can find in the OBS project forums. Let me just show you that one in the background there. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to make myself large in this frame for a second, and I've got a second version of OBS running in the background. So if I go to here, I've got a second camera. It's not a particularly flattering angle, I've got to be honest, but I had to sort of negotiate having multiple cameras without obscuring the other ones. But the great thing about this plugin is when you install it, you can actually go into a source and any sort of visual source and right click and go to filters. And if I wanted to, I could do something with the chroma key to make it go away, but I don't think we'll dwell on that too much at the moment. What we will do instead is if I go to add the effect filter, I can actually go to advanced mask. I can give that a name if I want to. I might just leave it at the default. But essentially now, and I'll try and move this out of the way so you get a better sense of what's happening. We have a number of different mask options. So we've got an alpha mask or an adjustment mask. We can do different types. So we can have different shapes or different sources, images, gradients, or a BSM alpha wipe, and I don't even know what that means, but it sounds exciting, doesn't it? But even just in terms of the shape options alone, this is really cool because it'll give you different options where you can have a circle. And again, we can sort of adjust the size of this one as well. So I might even make this a bit bigger. I can sort of adjust the that's actually just where that, okay, so that's kind of what I was looking for. But that's often a really popular thing that we're often asked about is how can I put myself in a circle and in the corner if I do want to be in there. But we've also got other shapes. We've got things like a lisp, if I can say that properly, which I evidently can't, a regular polygon, a star. It's probably a little weird. I'd probably have to adjust the size of that one a little bit. And I can sort of do that further down here as well. We do also have the heart. So again, if that is something that you're interested in doing, you can certainly do that. And I can adjust, you know, where that's actually centering on top of me. So I probably want to go down a little bit and do it in that way. And we do actually have a whole bunch of different options. We've got rotation, we've got corner, radius, we've got size. This is the one I was kind of looking for earlier. And again, I can make that really big or really small. I've also got zoom, so you can zoom in more. It's probably not a great idea for a camera to zoom in too much, but you certainly have that ability. And I guess the thing that I do want to note is traditionally the way you would do this is you create a graphic in a piece of graphics software and then use that. And that still works perfectly fine, but I just love the ability to sort of easily change the size and position. I've also got feathering, so you know, if I want to make the edges a little bit softer, I can certainly do that as well. And you can just sort of decide how you want to wrangle that one. So there's all kinds of things that you can do here in terms of actually, adjusting how this works. But again, I probably go back to circle for the moment. So we've got our shape, got our circle, and again, I don't really want the feathering, so I'm gonna turn that off. And then I've sort of got myself in that second view in that way. I mean, obviously for me, there's a lot of crap going on behind me, so that's the reason I use the green screen for most things. But that's certainly a really, really nifty way of sort of doing this as well. So, Saeed, I know you've been working with this one a little bit during the week and having a bit of a play, and we might revisit how that works with the Move plugin a little bit later on. But how have you been finding this one?
So, I mean, masks are a thing for a long time. And this, I think this plugin is relatively new. I think maybe it came out this year, something like this. And before you, of course, you have to create the mask first, use whatever tool, PowerPoint, Figma, Canva. It's easy to create, but still you have to use another tool. And masks in general are very useful. I mean, just a circle thing and put yourself in front of a screen sharing so that you don't hide everything. That's a very useful thing. And having it as a filter, I mean, you don't need another tool, which is friction. Right.
Absolutely.
So you don't need design skills, but still I need to open another tool and then create something. Oh, it doesn't fit. I have to arrange it new and download it and upload it somehow. And here you can just fine tune live while you are doing something and see how it fits to this scene. How does it look in this scene? Crop it a little bit more, make the edges bigger or smaller. So it's better this way to just have the plugin inside than using the filter for the masks themselves. So yeah, a very useful thing and easy to use. You don't need to use everything, but there are two things. So for me, I also like the circle because it's a classic, and having some round corners because it adds a little bit to it instead of having it just with hard crops like a little square. Add a little bit of rounded corners makes a huge difference. Just as you can see in my camera. So here there are, I don't know, 20 pixels of radius added there makes a huge difference than just having it cropped hard and added to a background. So yeah, very cool.
Absolutely. And I guess the other thing too, and it's one of those great things where I'm trying to demonstrate stuff, and my monitor is directly behind the camera, so it's a little bit tricky, but just bear with me. So if I actually change this to maybe a rectangle, again, I'd probably want to make that a little bit, you can adjust the dimensions of that one. And again, in this case, I can barely see what I'm doing over here because it's literally behind this second camera. But the great thing about this is we can actually change the corners. And it's really funny because the thing that Sam and I both did completely independently was that we decided to, round certain corners, but not all of them. So, and again, I probably want to make it even more pronounced than that. Let's maybe even try 200. So top left and bottom right, for example, if we both make those 200. And you can sort of see that, you've got a bit more of an organic shape. And again, I know the framing of this isn't great because it is literally the second camera and I never use this. But you can really go in and do that. You can go in and sort of change the feathering if you do want to make that a little bit softer. There's all kinds of things you can actually do with this. And I guess the other thing that's worth mentioning, and we'll get to this in our last segment, is that you can actually animate a lot of these properties with another plugin, which we'll talk about in a second. But let's just check in with the comments. Hello to and Saeed. I love the fact that he's commenting and co-hosting at the same time, drinking coffee and energy drinks simultaneously. I always feel really guilty that we keep you awake. Hello to Tech Troublemaker Roy, who's saying, "What's up, guys?" Yes, obviously today we're talking about OBS. I know Roy does dabble a little bit with OBS, but he is first and foremost an Ecamm live person, and that's okay. Everybody's welcome. Use the tools that make sense for you. I don't have anything against that product. I just don't own a Mac. Sam is just noting too that the cat cam is down till further notice, but there are tons of cat videos on YouTube, so you can definitely check those out if you want to. But today we are sort of talking about some of our favorite OBS Studio plugins, and Sam and I have done a number of shows on this in the past, and they're always really popular. People are always really keen to learn new things, so we kind of like to do these. And again, it was so great that Saeed was able to join me this week because he's such a font of knowledge, and some of the things that we'll talk about in the, some of these plugins I'd never really played with before, and he was recommending them, so that was really, really awesome. So we're going to come back and talk about the composite blur effect, which is really fun, and you can do a lot of really interesting things with it. So we'll be back in just a moment.
And then I looked at the first assessment, and the first assessment was record a 5-minute video, and it was a pretty simple introduction of yourself. There was nothing exciting. I didn't have to research. It was just a 5-minute warm-up. And I freaked out. That course is still sitting in the cupboard beside me. I see that stack of papers and I almost rock in the corner. It cost me a lot of money to sign up, and I threw the whole course away.
And that was Michelle J. Raymond speaking on my podcast, Build a Presentation Muscle, the podcast all about showcasing your expertise through content creation. You can learn more about that one over at johnlacey.com. Today on the video and live streaming show, I'm joined by my special guest co-host, Saeed Sadouk, the facilitator. And we're talking about OBS plugins that we like. And this is one that I know that you've sort of used in the past and you're very excited about. This is the composite blur plugin, I should say. Struggling for my words a little bit there, but essentially, again, head over to obsproject.com. This one gives you the ability to blur parts of your scenes and sources. So, Say, do you want to talk about that one, or should I demonstrate that one?
I can talk and demonstrate if you like, because I prepared something and would have also a use case for that. So if you just put me on the full screen, there we are. Okay. So although it's called like a blur plugin, what it does is you can blur, you can pixelate things, which is also nice. And I have a button on my Stream Deck, and this is how it would look if I put the button on my Stream Deck. You can see it there. So my camera is pixelated with hexagonal pixels, and also added as a second effect, it's turned black and white. This is usually I have a timer and I have some music in the background, but I don't want to share the music now. But this is for me when I do events, if it's in Zoom or elsewhere, this is like my intro scene, my welcome scene. So when people join, right, and they're waiting, we are waiting for people to join. Usually it takes like 2 to 3 minutes. It looks kind of like this. So just giving people the hint, okay, it's still 2 minutes to go. And the fact that I'm pixelated and not in full color is also maybe a hint that, okay, we're not ready yet. I can still grab a coffee, or I can set up my camera or do whatever I like. And if I turn it off, and this is the other effect, if I do it really slowly, you can see I get back to color. So just one more time, and then I will show you how to do it. So like this, pixelated, and then snapping my fingers, and I get back to full color. And you can create this very easily once you have the plugin installed, of course. I have my camera here, and I will start my filters. And I already have it here, but I will add another one, which is the composite blur one, this one. Okay. And I can choose between different algorithms. I don't need to care about them. The Gaussian is like blur. I don't know if you can see it, but it's just regular blur, as we are used to. And the other one is pixelate. And if I choose pixelation, looks like this. And I can also then select, should it be squares? Should it be hexagonal, which looks, I like this one the most. Or should it be circles? Or should it be triangles? Just for the moment, I will go to, let's say, the hexagonal one, like this. And I can change the pixel size. So making the pixels a little bit bigger will look like this, or making them a little bit smaller. So it depends on the effect you want to achieve. So people cannot really see what I do. And other options you can, of course, also play with, like smoothing. So how smooth should the pixels be? So you can see this is kind of blurred and pixelated at once, or I can make the pixels really, really hard. Again, depending on the style of your stream or the meeting you are hosting. I just realized we are not childish, we are childlike, and people like this little effect. So, oh, what's happening on screen, right? Or they maybe think, oh, your camera is very, very pixelated because of the quality, and then you can just switch to something that's high quality for the effect. There are not a lot of settings you will actually need. So install it. You can add this filter, by the way, not only to a camera, you can add it to a screen sharing, for example, or to an image. When we talked before, you have to think about use cases for this, but let's imagine you are doing like a quiz with an image and people have to guess in the chat something for engagement. You can pixelate the image or pixelate the whole scene like this, and then people guess, and once they guess, you can unpixelate it and show what the object is, and people win fame and honor, or I don't know, something like this, just for the engagement. This is one part. Or if you want to take it serious for privacy reasons, if you share something on your screen, you want to pixelate it for a minute because you type in your email address and your password or whatever, this would also be a use case to do something like this. And I can also crop it down to a certain area. So I could also pixelate half of my screen. I could try this and see if it makes sense. There is a button somewhere which I cannot find at the moment, but trust me, you can also like pixelate on. Oh, there it is, like this one, and then you can see now it's only my eyes are pixelated for the moment. I don't know. Do it as whatever you like, but as a serious use case, as serious as it can get for me, it's really the intro scene where I just turn it on and off to begin with, and then adding a little timer, for example, that works great for me. Easy to use. Try it out.
And I must admit, one of my favorite ways that you've used this in the past, and I might be giving away some of the secret sauce here a little bit, but
should I do it?
yeah, go do it.
Okay, it was. I think you were referring to this one where I sneeze and then it pixelates. Okay, the timing was not perfect, but I also had a green. I also had a green screen in this case, so only my face was pixelated because I only added it to the camera, and the background was not pixelated, and I just looked like a pixelated man in a real world, right? And then with the push of a button on my Stream Deck, I just could do it really, really quick and then unpixelate it when I was done. And people don't understand what's happening on the screen because half of you, like you are pixelated, the rest isn't. Really, really weird to wrap your head around if you don't know what it is. Now you know.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. And it's one of those things too, and I haven't really had a chance to play with this with my green screen, but like from this view, I'm kind of separated from the background. So I could do it to myself, and potentially in combination with another plugin that we'll talk about in a moment. But it is really fun. The only thing I might say is that, you talked about some of those serious use cases. I'm always really nervous about sharing any kind of sensitive information in a live situation, because if something can go wrong, it will probably go wrong at that sensitive point in time. I'm a big fan of like literally taking screenshots and blurring things out, so I know that they're definitely, I'm not attempting to do those things in real time. But again, it just depends on what you're working for. And I love the idea of those quiz answer type arrangements. That could be really fun and engaging. I just want to check in with the chat. So Roy is saying that he has OBS experience, he plays around with it, and he loves the vertical streaming plugin. So I'm a big fan of the Atom vertical plugin as well. It's really, really handy. I am curious, Roy, and maybe Saeed, you might know this as well, but if not, that's fine. I'm really curious because as someone who doesn't own a Mac, I've never played with Ecamm. Does it have its own sort of plugin ecosystem? Does anybody know?
I have no idea, to be honest. If you can add third-party things to it, I'm not sure, but
okay,
maybe
no worries.
Someone will answer it. But to your just to your point about the of course, you never should share anything on screen that you don't want people to see. What I tried out the other day, just to try it out, was a panic button. Just pixelate everything really, really quick, and it's a big red button, which could be just in case something happens. You just I pixelate everything that nobody can see, or somebody walks through the room, or whatever happens in the live stream. Just having a panic button which will not shut off everything and switch to a black screen, but people see you are still there, and you are still live, and the stream is not like broken, but you cannot see what's happening for a second. So would be maybe a nicer way to have a panic button than turn everything black or with a static image. Just saying, yeah.
Sure, I think that makes perfect sense. Business Growth Radio over on YouTube is saying no eCam is a gardened wall. No plugins. You can extend eCam with widgets. Okay, cool. We should. I should actually sort of get somebody on the show one week to talk about eCam because I know lots of eCam people. Okay. All right. So this is a question that has nothing to do with today's topic, but I want to address it because I think it's really cool. So Mean Black Dude is saying, what would you all suggest to a new YouTuber for an easy editing tool? No OBS, and I'm coming from a Windows Movie Maker era. That's a great question, and the thing that I've recommended that Sam often recommends is I'm totally blanking on the name of it now. CapCut, which is actually by the same company behind TikTok. Though if you are an American, there's a bit of a question mark over your ability to use that on an ongoing basis. But it is very, very simple to get started with CapCut, and we've done an entire show on that in the past. Roy is actually recommending DaVinci Resolve. You do need to have a decent computer, a fairly spec'd up computer to work with that, although again, it's a little bit like OBS in the sense of that it can do a billion things and you may or may not need all of those. So there is a little bit of a learning curve. I really wanted to, and because I got a really high-tech computer at the beginning of the year, I really wanted to play with DaVinci Resolve, and I just haven't really had the chance to learn it properly, but it's certainly another free option. Saeed, do you do a lot of video editing, or are you doing it mostly real time?
So I do video editing when I can, and I use DaVinci Resolve. But I think the emphasis was on easy, and I don't think it's easy. So it has a learning curve. It's very powerful once you know what to do, and it also depends on what you like to do. If it's just about, okay, I want to cut out things, right, and maybe add some music to it or simple things, maybe not that hard to do. Watch 2 tutorials and show, okay, add something to the timeline. This is the cutting tool, this is the export tool, and work with the presets, for example. But otherwise, it can get overwhelming because of all the filters and all the other things. But for me, I also began using it as a starter. I had no idea about video editing. It was the first tool I used, and now I cannot imagine using it. I still don't understand why it's free, to be honest, because it's so powerful, and I don't understand why I should pay for it, because there's nothing I'm missing from the pro version that it's worth like the $400, I think. So try it out, nothing to lose, it's free. And there are really, I forgot his name, but there are really great YouTube channels that are specific that show a lot of things, especially for DaVinci Resolve, and you can learn the basics, I think, really quick, and then quick, and depends on you how you want to evolve the skills.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because it was, and it was, 16, 17 years ago at this point, but when I started putting videos on YouTube, I used to use Windows Movie Maker, and I swear it crashed 50 times a day, and at some point I just got fed up, and I went to a physical store and I bought a box that had software in it, and that was, and I don't even know if it was owned by Sony at that stage. It might have been, but it was Sony Vegas Movie Studio, which it still exists. I don't think it's owned by Sony anymore. Somebody else is doing it. I mean, it's a great question, and I'd love to explore it further. I guess the thing I would add is that I work with Camtasia a lot, so that is a paid product. And the thing I love about it is it's really designed for screen capturing. So if you do a lot of tutorial videos, which is kind of my bread and butter, it captures the metadata, not just the screen. So you can sort of show and hide the mouse in editing. You can zoom into different places. You can sort of show keyboard shortcuts that you've used and different things like that as well. So there's a lot out there, and I guess it's a great question, and I do want to think about it more in maybe a future show, because I genuinely love CapCut. I think it's amazing, but unfortunately, politically, we don't know how long Americans in particular may have access to it. But The thing I will say about CapCut, though, is there's a phone version, there's a cloud version, and there's a desktop version. I believe on the phone version, it actually has a watermark, which you can't really get rid of, but on the desktop version, it's perfectly fine. So, and it's funny, Roy, again, another person with a lot of experience. He used Windows Movie Maker, then went to Pinnacle Studio. I have Camtasia now and Final Cut Pro on the Mac. I have a weird feeling I have Pinnacle Studio on my old computer. I think it was one of those deals, not an AppSumo deal, but one of those bundle deals out there. But anyway, yeah. So, I mean, you know, if you are watching this later on, if you are working with video editing software, tell us what you like and what is working well for you. I really want to do an entire show on that in the near future. So hopefully those suggestions are worth exploring. But we're going to go and come back and talk about the Move plugin. And in some ways, we've left a lot of time for the Move plugin because it can do so many things that'll blow your mind. So let's just go quickly to this one, and we'll be back in a moment.
If you've been watching us for a while, or this is your first time and you're thinking, Sam, John, this is great stuff, but I'm wearing a lot of hats already, and I don't need to add this to my list of things that I'm doing, but I really want to live stream, I've got you covered. I've been a freelance technical director and stream operator for 20 years, and I can help you either with one-on-one counseling, setups of shows, or even run your whole show for you. Get in touch with me, samproof@gmail.com, or find out more at samproof.tv.
And if you do need those remote production services, you can certainly reach out to Sam. Just for the benefit of people who might have been joining a little bit late, the reason Sam isn't here this week, and he may not be here for a number of weeks yet, is unfortunately he had a house fire and there has been a fair bit of property damage. His family is safe and well, and the kittens are all safe and accounted for. But just he's got his phone, but his laptop is no longer working. So if you did want to support Sam and Amanda and the family, there is actually a GoFundMe page that somebody has started, which you can check out over there. I should put that in the comments too. I know this won't reach every single platform, but I will give this a go nonetheless. So, you know, and we're very grateful that he and his family are safe, but unfortunately it's a pretty sucky thing to have to go through. And I've just thrown that into the chat for the platforms that will actually support that. And I'll post it on LinkedIn later as well. Okay, so we're talking about our favorite plugins today on the video and live streaming show. And I just want to check the chat really quickly. Okay. So CapCut Pro is something that Roy actually has, but it makes him grumpy. And again, it's probably a topic for another show, but I'd be really curious to hear about that. And he's also, you know, feeling bad for Sam there, as we all are at this point in time. But let's, yes, that's Samproof. Okay, so let's talk about another plugin. This is the Move plugin. I'm going to show you a really basic thing to do with the Move plugin, and then Saeed can get really, really nerdy with this. And I should say too, let me just zoom in. So if I click this button, hopefully this will work. So you can see my logo sort of animate ever so slightly in the corner of my screen. But essentially what I want to talk to you about is this Move plugin. And again, I've got my second version of OBS running. I've only got a single image, and I've only called it image, which is not really what you should do. I should probably go in and rename that and call this one banner. So once you've actually installed this plugin, it gives you a whole bunch of options. And again, I'm going to give you the most simple use case, and Saeed's going to show you some even cooler stuff. But if I right click and I go to filters, I've got my effect filters here for this plugin. So I can go in and I can go to move, the move action or move source. I have a feeling it's move source.
It is.
It is. Okay, cool. All right, this filter only works on scenes and groups. Okay, cool. So that's good to know. So what I want to do is I want to, instead of actually doing this on the banner itself, I want to go over here to the scene and go to filters and go add move action. And again, you could give that a name if you wanted to. Essentially, it's almost like frame by frame keyframe animation. So what we want to do, you know, we can do a filter enable. we want to select our, and again, I probably look ridiculous, but I'm trying to see around the camera. We're going to apply this to the banner. We're going to, if there was a filter that this relates to, we can enable it. We can have a start delay. We can sort of adjust the custom duration. So what I kind of want to do, and I might even rename this one, and I'll say banner 01. And I can go and I'm going to grab this one. I'm going to move it off the canvas. And I'm going to actually come to where it says, where is it?
You should have selected move source.
Yes, I should have. Okay, that's my bad. All right, no worries. Let's get rid of that. Again, I've only just started using this and it is really cool. But essentially, let's go banner 01. And I can select my banner. I can do a start delay if I wanted to. But essentially what I want to do is get this transform. So wherever I've moved this, however I've adjusted this, I can do that. And then, once I've done that, I've got a whole bunch of things. I can change the visibility of this. So I can change the order of this. So if I wanted to move something and hide it or, bring it to the fore, I can have things on top of other things. And that is actually something I've been playing around with a little bit because we do this show predominantly through StreamYard, but I wanted to see if I could actually do this in OBS. And we're probably going to move to that in the near future. But essentially, I can do all these different things, but once this has taken place, I can say, okay, what is the next action? And I probably need to make that next action first. So if I go to move source and go banner 2, and then I can potentially go in here. It's really hard to do this around the camera, but in fact, Saeed, maybe you can answer this question because it's been driving me nuts recently. OBS always wants to sort of fill the preview into that window, and sometimes I want to work with it more outside of out of the frame. Is there an easy way of doing that? Because if there is, I'm yet to actually have found it.
You mean the full canvas? Yes. Right-click on it, and then you have preview scaling.
Okay. Cool.
And then you can say scale to window or to your the output. It depends. If you have a 4K monitor, it will get smaller.
Okay.
If you have a small monitor, it will get bigger. But now it will all stay static, even if you move the.
All right. So, I mean, it's actually surprisingly hard for me to move that. So I'm going to just go in here and go to edit transform. And I might even just, let's throw some numbers in here. So if I go 250, so if I go 800 probably. Okay, there we go. Let's just imagine this is what I want. And it's probably not what I want. But again, just for our purposes, let's do that today. So again, I go back to my filters on my scene. I go here and I can come down and I can grab this transform. And then now if I actually, and again, what you would do, and again, it'd be great if I could rearrange this a little bit better. But what I can do, and you can set up a keyboard shortcut for this. You can set up a button on your Stream Deck. But essentially now if I click on that one, it's sort of, in fact, I haven't specified, so that's taking it off the screen. What I wanted to do as well is say next move is actually go to banner 2. So now I can click on here, it'll move it in there, and I can sort of do a similar one to take it off the screen. That's one very, very simple use case. And in some ways, I feel like Saeed can demonstrate some much more exciting things for us. So let's talk to us about how some of the ways that you've been using it.
Sure. So what you showed is actually a very good use case. If you have a lower third, something that shows your name, right? I don't want to show it the whole time. I can just move it outside of the frame. And when I push the button on my Stream Deck or I push the activate the filter, it will get back and is visible for everybody. So this is something that's, even if it's simple, but still very powerful. One thing I just did 5 minutes before we started this is you can see my social media stuff here, and every 20 seconds the LinkedIn will disappear to the bottom, and from the bottom up it will the YouTube one will you will see it in a second. It will just switch very smoothly like this. So okay, this is done with the move plugin also. Everything that's animated or everything that moves around is done with this. I will just take my camera. I've created one here, and I will quickly add a filter here. And what I want to do is, let's imagine we have a camera and we want to do something like screen sharing, for example. First of all, I did exactly what you did, John. Click the plus, look for move source, and I say this one is big because I'm too lazy to write things. And then I select the source, which is my camera in this case, and I will grab the transform. So when I activate the filter, nothing happens because I didn't change anything. The second filter, I will just copy and paste it here, duplicate. So I only need to change one setting, and this one is camera small, right? What I can do now is I select my camera, and where is the space? And I will make it smaller to the corner, like this. Okay? And again, I selected it, and I say, get transform. Now, if I activate this filter, it will just switch between these two states. Camera is small because I'm screen sharing or whatever. And when I click big, it gets big. When I click small, it gets small. And imagine whatever is in the background. The yellow could be anything. It can be an image, it can be slides, it can be another source or another camera, and so on and so on. And I can also do this with 2, 3, 4, 7 different sources simultaneously. So this is just another use case for your camera, for example. And I could also add a third one. Let's say we have like this, and I call this medium. Spoiler alert, this one is something that's something in the middle, and I make it like maybe like this. And I also, again, just click on Get Transform. That's all I need to do. And let's click through them. We have small, we have medium, and we have big. And I don't need 3 different scenes with 3 different cameras in different sizes. It's just one filter to one single source. And when I push my Stream Deck button, which is just activate filter selected, it will change between these 3 things. That's a really, really nice thing. Another thing I could do, also doing it with the camera, is imagine I'm screen sharing. And I will just use the ones I already created because, again, I'm too lazy to create new ones. Imagine you are screen sharing and you know how things work. You always cover the most important button on your screen, right? Your face is always where you cover something. And now I just created something where I can move the camera around. Now it's in the left top corner. But if I want to, I could also, with one click, send it to the right corner or send it to the middle or send it to the middle and make it bigger. Just change the transform like this, put it somewhere, and then it will change. Also, this also applies to, this is also transform. So I could crop it like this. And now say get transform. And when I click through my filters, it's big in 16:9, and on the other side in 16:9, or like this. Whatever you apply, whatever transformation you apply to your source, doesn't matter which source it is, and you activate the filter, it will then get to this settings with one click. And if you want to, you can also change the duration. So let's make it very obvious. Let's say 5,000 milliseconds and 5,000, which is 5 seconds, so that you can see the effect like this. And now again, now it's really, really smooth. And the second one, well, I didn't change that one, but the third one is really, really smooth. Depends on what you would like to do. And I didn't switch between my scenes at all. Let me just think. So there's that. You already showed the lower third thing. And I can put them in a certain order. So I can say, just as you demonstrated, after it went to this position, look for the next filter. Or do another filter simultaneously. Could also work. In my case, I already have one, which is pixelation. I will add it here. Let's add it to, let's say, to this one. Okay. And I can say once this is done, pixelate the whole thing. So I only have one push of a button, or do it simultaneously. It doesn't matter. So let's pixelation on. And now again for the demo, it's in the top left, top right corner. And it's in the left corner, and I don't know where I put the pixelation. Probably it's here. And you can see both filters are applied simultaneously. It moves to a specific place and also applies the filter with the grayscale and also applies the filter with the pixelation. Very
and
simple.
And that's kind of
the
beauty of that is it can do multiple things, and like it can go from different, like it works out the math of the animation itself, so you can jump from any of those things to any other, and it'll be quite smooth.
Right. What you could also do. So let's now, of course, I've added so many things to this camera. Let's see if we can reset it, make it a little bit smaller, and turn the pixelation off. So like this. Okay. So now I have my camera again, and I can add like the advanced masks you showed before. Let's say I want to add a mask here, and no, it doesn't have to be pretty, but just for the demonstration, something like this. And I add some rounded corners. There they are. I don't even have to add the rounded corner, so like this. Now I add another one, which is also move value this time. Move value is in the same plugin, and you get five different filters additionally. Now I can create one button that says, look for advanced mask. You can change one setting or multiple settings. I will choose one and then apply the last filter. It has no name, but I know it's the right one. I tested it. And go to 99, which is, well, let's make it as obvious. Let's say like 200. And when I click on it, it does the following with one click. You can see the corners are rounded. And if I create a second filter, I just duplicate it because I already have it. And this time I change the rounded corners a little bit. So to this. Of course, this does not work. I have to switch and select it again. And say this one. And I don't know, just to make it obvious, I say this time it's 500 pixels for the rounded corners. And I can easily switch between normal round corners and extreme round corners. Just in case. So applying, not only applying a mask, but applying the detail and the setting of a mask, or applying the detail of color correction, or whatever you like. As soon as you have the filter already added here, add the filter first, then add the move value, and you can move the value of the filter you just added. It doesn't matter which filter it is. And it's so, and then again, put a button on your Stream Deck, push it once, and it will add corners, make it round, change the mask itself to a heart or something like this. And again, I don't need to have a second scene or third scene. It's just one scene. I didn't change anything. Everything is applied to the same source, which is very, very convenient in my opinion. So these are just three simple things. And I would like to show you one last thing you probably didn't know about because I didn't tell you. I haven't set it up, but as a bonus, you get the move transition on top, which is this one. So you will see we'll have a new transition. I just say yes, 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 without going into details. What happens now is, okay, this didn't work, but let me try again. Make it. Let me see if this works. I have too many sources on my screen, but what happens is, if I have the camera in the first scene, and the camera also in the second scene, but in a different position or in a different size, it will just move these sources smoothly between these scenes. It's very cool scene transition to just, so in this case, I cannot show it because it's not set up, but I still want to tell you. So if I move to the second one, theoretically, which doesn't have the screen sharing, usually it would move the screen sharing slowly outside of the frame and make my camera bigger slowly, without having the feeling of, oh, he is switching between scenes. It's just things are sizing up in the same scene, and it looks again really, really smooth. And you can do a lot of things and create a lot of cool and practical effects with that. Just look for it. You get a new transition for free with this plugin.
You do, and in some ways, that's actually what the plugin started its life as, is just the ability to go to different scenes. But now, because you can actually rearrange things within the same scene, I'm actually finding I actually need a lot fewer scenes to do the things that I want to do. And again, I'm just going to play a little bit of this video in the background behind me. So this is kind of, and I haven't really had a chance to use this, but essentially, ultimately, I kind of want to move to a situation where we're doing the whole show in OBS. And a lot of this that you'll see on the screen is done by this in a single scene, but essentially with the Move plugin. So I'm resizing the videos, I'm adjusting their position, I'm putting one in front of the other. There's all kinds of different things that you can do. I'm going full screen. So there's certainly all kinds of stuff that you can do in terms of that, and you can animate any of those properties in other other sources. So you can animate the advanced masks in the way that Saeed showed, but you can do that with composite blur. You can do that with all kinds of things. So it's really, really cool. And again, it just goes to show the generosity of the developers, because this is another thing that is literally free and kind of amazing. So this is the Move plugin. Head over to obsproject.com if you want to check that out. I have a terrible habit of saying I'm going to go back into the video description and add all the links. I will try to do that today. I don't always get around to it, but let me know. But you can certainly look up any of these ones at any time and check them out in that way. So obviously, you can do a lot of cool stuff with OBS. We don't want to overwhelm you, but we do want to show you some of the possibilities, and they're definitely super fun to play with. So as we begin to wrap up, and I'm conscious of the fact that I'm keeping poor Saeed awake when it's probably, I don't know, 2 a.m. your time now.
Yes.
But where can people go and learn more about you and find you and all your good content?
Because today I used the Move plugin, I already created this one. So you can go to youtube.thefacilitator.com, which is my YouTube channel. I am always happy for new followers and supporters. Or you can connect with me on LinkedIn. Look for my name, or shortcut would be linkedin.thefacilitator.com. Or without the subdomains, just thefacilitator.com, which is my website, where you can find some information about me and my upcoming courses, my workshops, my events, etc. Pepe, happy to connect with everyone who's watching and who wants to talk about stuff like you just saw in the last 58 minutes.
And Saeed has a really great YouTube channel, so check that out as well at the Facilitator. If you want to catch up with anything I'm doing, you can head over to johnlacey.com. There are a whole bunch of social links at the bottom of all of the pages. So, find me on YouTube and LinkedIn predominantly. Don't forget that you can also, check out cuteavalanche.com and samproof.tv. Obviously, Sam is not having a great time at the moment due to a house fire. So if you do want to support him, you can definitely go and pledge to that GoFundMe page. I'll just put that on the screen again. So you can find that over there. The good news is he and the kittens and the family are all safe, but unfortunately there has been a fair bit of property damage, including his laptop. So anything that you guys can do to help support him would be appreciated. And again, I haven't even really had a chance to dig into this too much myself, but the Ladder to Space, look that up on YouTube. It's sort of I want to say virtual reality thing. You can actually interact with it with chat commands and donations and things. It's fascinating, and I'd love to hear Sam unpack that when he's in a better position to do so. But thank you to everybody who's joined us in the chat today. I just wanted to mention too, GameNGAB said that they use Capwing for shorts, which is great for motion tracking. I've been hearing a lot about that, but I don't really know how it works. But I'm very curious to check that out maybe after the show. And again, he said thank you. Oh, I don't know this person, so he or she said great talk. Thank you, John and Saeed. Thank you for hanging out with us. We really do appreciate your company. I'll be back next week talking about something else, so feel free to hit that like and subscribe button wherever you happen to be watching, and look out for those invites, and we'll talk again soon. But have a great weekend, and again, thank you so much to Saeed for joining me. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks a lot.